Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description, in every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about episode 4 of Paramount Plus's Lawmen, Bass Reeves. Sorry not sorry, you guys, but each episode I feel like is more boring and uneventful than the one that preceded it. I think the show thinks that it's probably doing a lot more than it is. You know, it sits in these scenes for a really long time, and these are scenes that like, an unjustifiably long time. Like, these are scenes that are not doing much to drive the plot forward, or just flat out, at least in the moment, feel kind of useless. Like, so let's look at the opening scene. If you're a complete fucking numbskull, maybe this scene works for you. For me, however, since I'm watching a show about someone who hunts and arrests criminals, it was immediately apparent to me that this whole opening scene with Bass pretending to be this person looking for whiskey was an elaborate ruse to arrest someone. That scene was 8 fucking minutes long, and it spanned into an entirely different day, like within the context of the show, to arrive at a very obvious conclusion. Like, that ruse felt like too much, even within the context of the story. It's like, yo, did Bass need to do all that just to arrest those guys? Like, I don't know, man. That was a lot. But I think that's the problem with this show. A ton of time spent on barely moving the story forward, or in this case, moving it to a very obvious place. You know, I mentioned some of these scenes in previous videos, but it seems like the one where Arthur pretends that he wrote a poem for Sally that he actually didn't write. Why did we need that scene? Like, did that feel, like when you were watching that, did that feel necessary to you guys? Like, do you feel like this relationship plotline with Arthur and Sally is going somewhere? Or is it just here because every goddamn show on the planet needs a romantic relationship shoehorned into it? Like, you know, maybe it is going somewhere, but it doesn't feel like it when the scenes are like these one-off scenes that only feel like diversions from the shit that we want to see. Like, maybe if they dedicated more time to the Sally and Arthur relationship, maybe having consecutive scenes or scenes that feel like they matter and that I didn't just see him fake read a poem that he wrote. Like, maybe if they did that, I could see the vision, you know what I'm saying? But right now, it just feels like it feels like wasted time. And, you know, if we get to episode 7 and I look back and I'm like, yo, that scene where he was faking that poem, that shit really made a fucking difference. That mattered. I will definitely take that L, you guys. I do it all the time. I'll be like, yo, I was wrong about that one thing. So I'll take the L if I'm wrong and these scenes like actually matter. But man, they don't feel like it at the moment. And then also you have these scenes with Bass's wife, Jenny. They're doing more with those, working in concert with some of the Bass scenes to speak to how these long periods of separation are wearing on their marriage. You know, they have the one scene where Jenny kind of like woke up in the middle of the night, like, you know, and Bass wasn't there. She was kind of panicking. And then at the end, when Bass is delivering what's his name? Cobb's note to his wife. He puts the note away and he kind of like speaks, and what he's saying, it's meant for the wife, but it's really Bass also speaking to his wife. So they're trying to tie those two things together. But then you also have this D plot with this Edwin guy who wants to build this black utopia, presumably, if I interpret this correctly, on Indian land. I don't know what's up with that. I find that interesting in theory, but these scenes have the same problem as the Arthur Sally scenes. Not enough time spent on them to make them feel anything more. They feel like anything more than an unwanted diversion from the main story. You have the scene, like I said, where Jenny randomly woke up in the middle of the night scared because Bass was there. And I just felt like that scene needed to be included with like another scene or something like that to help kind of like not just convey the thought of Jenny having a hard time without Bass there, but to just make it feel like it's just like, hey, here's Jenny upset, and now back to the main story. Like it feels like it feels like an afterthought, and they're treating these B plots as afterthoughts, and it's making them not work. And I just feel like they need to either keep them at the proper length for what their purpose is, or just eliminate some of these ones altogether, like the poem one. They consistently have these short scenes that are just like they're kind of like the visual equivalent of an incomplete sentence. It's like, what are you trying to say here? Like, this isn't a complete thought. And then to top it all off, I didn't get story that I needed and wanted in favor of all of these scenes that I don't give a fuck about. So, like, for example, after the 8-minute ruse, Bass takes the two guys that he's captured back to Billy Crow, who's waiting for him along with several other prisoners that they've already captured. And it's been 2 years. We learned that at the beginning of the episode, but I guess the show didn't think that I needed to see how Billy avoided being hanged by the guy who hangs everybody, how he got out of jail, how he came to be in Bass's service. But apparently I did need to see Arthur read a fucking poem. And I think that's the kind of decision-making that's harming the show. I wanted to see the shit about Billy. Like him saying, like, if I ever get out of here, how can I do what you do? I'm like, oh, wow, this guy actually, he wants to be a good guy. And then they're just like, yeah, fuck that. You don't need to see that shit, but here's Arthur reading the fucking poem. Like, that's what I'm talking about, you guys. So the main story told in this episode revolves around Bass's mission to find this guy, Silas Cobb. He steals horses and he sells them, so he's a real piece of shit. We also learn that the bad guys have a bounty on Bass. So Bass and Billy go to a brothel to look for Silas, and just like how Billy was standing right outside when Bass was looking for him, Silas is right upstairs fucking one of the sex workers. Also of note, Billy falls in love with another one of the women after she speaks like all of 3 sentences to him. That's a recipe for disaster. I know it. So Silas Cobb offers a guy named Jim Webb, who just must be a much bigger fish than he is, if Bass lets him go. And Bass seems to agree. At least he agrees to not killing Silas, until the woman that Silas was with grabs Silas's gun, and then the two of them escape. And the one guy, Silas, he rides past Billy on a horse, and Billy shoots him as he rides past, and it ends up being a fatal shot. This guy ends up dying. But then I feel like they made this a much bigger deal than I felt like it should have been, or at least that I feel like it would have been. Like, yeah, of course, he was a thief. He deserved his day in court. He did not deserve to be shot dead in the middle of the street. But this is the 19th century, not 2023. Like, that argument for why Silas shouldn't have been shot, that feels appropriate for 2023, where the police do that to black people all the time. But like, it doesn't feel appropriate for 1870. Like, I feel like motherfuckers got shot in 1870, and that's just what it was. Like, the guy we came to arrest is getting away, so I shot him. Like, that feels like that tracks for 1870. I don't know, man. I feel like they were a little bit hard on Billy for shooting that guy. And then also, where the fuck does Bass get off giving Billy shit for shooting that guy as if he didn't get one up by a fucking prostitute in the fucking brothel? Like, Bass should be ashamed of himself. Like the fucking prostitute caught him slipping. And then Billy saved the fucking day. So I don't know, man. Seems to me like Billy was the only one who came prepared to get the job done. I don't know, you guys. Lastly, They did set up something that I am looking forward to, which is this Mr. Sundown character. Like, that shit sounded really fucking cool. I was actually even kind of irritated that they didn't get to that in this episode, because I was kind of like, oh shit, we're about to run into Mr. Sundown, and they're like, credits. Like, fuck, man, finally you give me something interesting, and I gotta get hit with the fucking credits. Like, I'm concerned that it won't pay off well, but for right now, I'm pretty enticed by the Mr. Sundown character. I also like the scenes of the one prisoner who is the same actor that plays Magic's father on Winning Time, explaining who Mr. Sundown was, and then copping to cutting that guy's face off. Like, yeah, I did that shit. that was good. It was just too small of an that good stuff was too small of a portion in this aggressively mediocre episode. I'm gonna keep watching the show. I'm gonna finish the coverage on the channel, but at this point, I kind of feel like, what I said at the beginning in my video for episode 1. I feel like Sheridan has lost the my eyeballs on all of his projects privilege. It feels like he's spreading himself too thin at this point, and the shows are suffering because of it, with each one being worse than the last one. So there's still potential for this one to have some really strong scenes, really strong episodes going forward. I'm looking forward to those, but it's starting to feel like this show's going to be a pretty big miss for Sheridan. I'm not seeing much I'm liking here. If I'm going to get fucking 5 to 10 minutes of good shit per episode, that's not going to be working out. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully this Mr. Sundown shit can really not even drive episode 5, but maybe just drive the whole back half of the season, and we can kind of recover here. So that's what I thought. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments, and until next week, peace.